Caleb Morris inherited the land when he was 28, a vast 200-acre stretch of meadows, oak trees, and quiet streams on the edge of a small town that was slowly turning into a city. The land had been in his family for generations, untouched since his grandfather passed away. Caleb had grown up exploring it, fishing in the creek, and watching the sun set behind the low hills. It wasn't just property to him, it was memory, legacy, and peace rolled into one. After inheriting it, he paid the taxes every year and visited occasionally, but otherwise left it alone. He always told himself that one day he might build something there, a cabin, maybe a small ranch, but never found the time. The land remained still, waiting for him, until the day everything changed. Driving home from a job site one late afternoon, he decided to take a detour and pass by the property. The familiar dirt road was gone, replaced by a wide gravel path lined with orange flags. As he drove farther, he slowed in disbelief. Bulldozers, cranes, and cement mixers filled the horizon. Dozens of workers were pouring foundations, hammering frames, and shouting over the noise of heavy machinery. A massive banner stretched across a wooden frame that read, "Welcome to Pine Ridge Estates, luxury living by Fairmont developers." Caleb pulled over, stunned. He got out of his truck and walked toward the construction site. A man in a yellow vest approached him, clipboard in hand, and asked if he was a contractor. When Caleb replied that this was his land, the man laughed and told him that couldn't be true, the property belonged to Pine Ridge HOA and Fairmont developers. Confused and angry, Caleb left without another word, dust rising behind his tires as he sped home. That night, he pulled out the old deed his grandfather had kept in a locked box, the same one he'd filed with the county years earlier. It clearly stated his family's ownership, boundaries, and parcel number. The next morning, he went to the county clerk's office. The clerk, after some typing and frowning, told him the record showed a transfer of ownership, filed 8 years ago, to a corporate entity called Fairmont Development Group. The signature listed on the document wasn't his, nor anyone in his family. Caleb felt his stomach drop. Someone had stolen his land on paper. He could have called the sheriff, gone to the press, or protested right away, but he didn't. Instead, something inside him went quiet. He decided to wait, to watch, to gather every scrap of evidence he could. As the weeks went by, he returned several times, pretending to be just another onlooker. He watched as they paved roads, installed streetlights, and framed homes across his hills. Every nail they hammered into the earth only made his resolve stronger. For the next 2 years, Caleb Morris became a ghost in his own land. Pine Ridge Estates rose quickly, a neat grid of streets, manicured lawns, and 2-story homes with pastel siding and stone porches. Every time he drove past, something new had appeared, a playground, a male pavilion, a row of freshly planted trees. At night, he could see the glow of porch lights from miles away. It was strange to watch a neighborhood breathe life on land that was still, in every legal sense, his. He made sure to stay invisible. He didn't approach anyone, didn't call attention to himself, and didn't confront the builders again. Instead, he spent hours at the county archives, tracing documents back through the years. It turned out that the fake transfer deed had been filed by a now-defunct shell company owned by Fairmont Development Group, a name that appeared again and again in other property disputes. The signature claiming to be his was a forgery so crude that even his lawyer chuckled when he first saw it. Caleb began to gather everything, scan copies of deeds, notarized statements from old surveyors, tax receipts proving uninterrupted payment under his name. The more he uncovered, the clearer it became that the developer had counted on him never noticing. Fairmont had quietly used forged paperwork to push the project through zoning and environmental reviews, and the county, overloaded with construction permits, hadn't looked too closely. When the homes began to sell, an HOA was formed, run by a group of eager new homeowners who believed every inch of the neighborhood was rightfully theirs. The irony wasn't lost on Caleb, they were enforcing property lines that didn't even exist in their name. He would drive by occasionally, blending in with the locals who admired the new development. Once, he stopped near the entrance and saw the new sign gleaming under the morning sun, Pine Ridge Estates at Fairmont Community. Just beneath it, workers were setting up a small community garden, planting flowers in soil his grandfather had once tilled. Caleb stood there quietly, hands in his pockets, feeling a strange mix of anger and satisfaction. They thought they had stolen from him. They had no idea what was coming. A few months later, a letter appeared in his mailbox. The return address read Pine Ridge HOA. The letter, printed on official stationery, accused him of unauthorized access to their property during his recent visits and warned him against trespassing. Caleb couldn't help but laugh as he read it. He folded the letter neatly and placed it in a folder marked evidence. Then he wrote a short, polite reply. "Thank you for your notice. I appreciate your concern. I'll see you soon in court." He sealed the envelope, dropped it in the mail, and smiled to himself. The trap was nearly set. All he needed now was patience. The day of the hearing arrived with a chill in the air and a buzz that spread through the small-town courthouse like static. By then, Pine Ridge Estates had become a proud, tight-knit community. 96 families called it home. The Homeowners Association had a president, a treasurer, and even a social committee. When the lawsuit was filed, Morris versus Pine Ridge HOA and Fairmont Development Group, panic rippled through the neighborhood. Most of the residents assumed it was some kind of technical mistake, a boundary dispute that would be resolved quietly. None of them could imagine that the land under their homes had never belonged to them at all. Caleb arrived at court in his usual calm white jeans, a clean shirt, and an old leather jacket. His lawyer, a sharp, gray-haired woman named Elaine Porter, had spent months preparing the case. Across the aisle sat a row of Fairmont's attorneys in tailored suits, flanked by HOA board members who whispered anxiously among themselves. The HOA president, a stern man named Richard Campbell, avoided looking at Caleb entirely. He was the one who had signed the letter accusing him of trespassing. The proceedings began with Fairmont's attorney presenting their version of events, that the property had been purchased lawfully, the permits issued properly, and the homeowners acted in good faith. They painted Caleb as a man trying to exploit a clerical error for personal gain. When they spoke his name, it was with condescension, as if he were some backwoods relic standing in the way of progress. Caleb listened quietly, hands folded, eyes steady. Then it was Elaine's turn. She began by placing a thick binder on the table, labeled simply Morris Family Land, 1921 I present. Page by page, she built the story: original deeds dating back to Caleb's grandfather, tax receipts showing uninterrupted payments, and notarized letters from county officials verifying that no legitimate transfer of ownership had ever occurred. When she presented the forged deed Fairmont had filed, the courtroom went silent. The signature, supposedly Caleb's, was clumsy and misspelled. Elaine turned toward the judge. "Your Honor," she said evenly, "this is not a case of a missed signature or a lost document. This is a case of deliberate fraud, a theft hidden behind corporate paperwork." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Morris," he said, "are you claiming that the entirety of Pine Ridge Estates, every home, every road, sits on land that still legally belongs to you?" Caleb stood. His voice was calm, but it carried across the courtroom. "Yes, Your Honor. Every square inch." Gasps spread through the room. Several homeowners exchanged horrified looks. One woman began to cry quietly. The HOA's lawyer tried to object, stammering about technicalities and survey lines, but the judge raised a hand for silence. When the county land registrar was called to testify, he confirmed it: the official database still listed the property under Caleb's name.